Shalom, making sure I'm on. Okay, check. First and foremost, I'd like to give all praise to Yahweh, Ba'Hashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'Hashem Rakakadash. Double honors, the elders and apostles, the great millstone who are teaching this truth and sincerity. And a shout out to Yakims out there on the four quarters of the earth proclaiming this truth. Bracha the Yahweh, Bracha the Yahweh Shai, Ba'Hashem Rakakadash, Bracha done. So I have created the channels. There isn't anything on them yet, but I soon will be. As you know, I've gotten a strike on Israelite Foreigner 6 for teaching this truth. So that has its second strike. So I've created Israelite Foreigner 8, as you can see here. If I try to paste the links down below, it'll come up in error. So I'm just showing you what it is. So that way when you search for it, you can find it and you can subscribe to me there. And I also created Israelite Foreigner 9 channel. So both of those are mine. You know, pretty much though, I've gotten strikes, and anything with the word Israelite Foreigner 3 and up are mine. You know, but 8 and 9 are my latest here. And this happening in my neck of the woods. Magnitude 4.0 earthquake strikes near Anderson Springs. So that's about maybe 15 miles south of where I'm at. Well, actually, it's a little further than that, but Anderson Springs, okay, that's Sonoma County. But nonetheless, though, a 4.0 earthquake here in California. The U.S. Geological Survey reported a magnitude 4.0 earthquake in Anderson Springs, area of Sonoma County, just before noon Monday. The magnitude was originally reported as a 4.2, but was later downgraded by USGS. The quake struck about 1.9 miles southwest of Anderson Springs. So, you know, earthquakes in diverse places. They usually don't get earthquakes, but times are changing because look at the time that we're in. You know, we're measuring now the time diligently as we're all moving towards a digital dollar and digital wallet. Everything going digital, you know. And if you don't know what nanotechs are, I suggest checking out my video on BitChute as to what's happening with the jabs and how they're tracking you with the jabs.
Though it had reigned uncontested for a century, it took comparatively little time for the British pound to lose its place as the global reserve currency. It took a meeting in a remarkably small meeting room at the Mount Washington Resort. However, the actions taken by Winston Churchill on behalf of the tightly held banking cartel that had purchased his soul made the gathering inevitable. The same will happen for the US dollar, which will be discarded within the next 10 to 12 years maximum. Digitizing the yuan, the dollar, the North Korean won, or some fantasy creation currency will always be attractive to governments disposed to centralized, collectivist control, such as they all currently are, because they allow 100% control over individuals regardless of where they are on the globe. Once individuals are financially controlled, their behavior, actions, and even their thoughts easily fall into line, as is desired. The only problem with digitized currencies is that they are entirely valid for their intended purpose until someone decides that setting off an atmospheric EMP weapon and all of our chips stop talking to each other. Such a scenario was one of Carl Sagan's great ideas he actively advanced as a young professor, but unfortunately, Jodie Foster didn't make that one into a movie. In his 2011 book on Russia, former US Secretary of State Henry Kissinger used the ancient Chinese game of Weiqi, or Go, as it is also commonly known, as an extended metaphor to conceptualize and explain the decisions of the Chinese regime in both foreign and domestic policy. A game of strategic domination akin to chess, Go is won by building and maintaining key positions around the board, rather than by any strategy of outright attrition.
Like another version of
Understood as
Risk.
one of the stones placed upon the board, the digital yuan joins the Belt and Road Initiative, BRI, the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership, RCEP, and militarization of the South China Sea as part of a strategy for squeezing US positions both internationally and domestically. In the struggle to dominate the multidimensional board of geostrategy, space, cyberspace, air, land, and sea, the digital yuan poses a new and unique challenge to the US regime. Though there has long been speculation, even serious discussion, of the dollar being replaced or eventually displaced as the world reserve currency, it has remained the overwhelming currency of choice, due in part to institutional inertia but also because of the continued relative economic predominance maintained by the US. As Tim Morrison pointed out in Foreign Policy a little over a year ago, this exorbitant privilege entails many advantages for Washington. Chief among them is the US's ability to cheaply and immediately finance its own deficit spending, as well as disproportionate power in imposing economic sanctions. Though the most recent burst of COVID-19 related spending in the US has rekindled talk of the demise of the dollar, over 80% of all international settlement transactions continue to be conducted in dollars. As to how the full-scale launch of the digital yuan, DCEP, may undermine this standing, it provides the Chinese regime two immediate advantages. The first is that in the age of ubiquitous mobile phone service and devices, millions of rural Chinese will gain access to banking services previously unavailable, upping demand and circulation of the yuan and enhancing the integration of rural Chinese into the larger Chinese economy. Second, unlike cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin, the digital yuan is controlled by the Chinese regime and will allow it a clear, real-time picture of the Chinese economy, providing greater ease for the regime to centrally manage and plan its fiscal and monetary policies. Combined with their investments and involvement in Africa and Central Asia via the BRI, it is not difficult to imagine such immediate access to China's legal tender.
And don't forget, there is a numero that you don't know about because you've never seen it, but there is a numero, North American Union dollar too, which most people don't know about it, but it's been out there for some time, depending on where you get your sources from. But yeah, the North American Union, they have a numero. You just never seen it physically.
This is key, as no other digital currency is yet so recognized by any state, potentially sending demand for digital yuan soaring across Central Asia and Africa and increasing its use in settling international transactions. Though it had reigned uncontested for a century, it took comparatively little time for the British pound to lose its place as the global reserve currency. In the age of acceleration, the dollar's fall could be even more abrupt and the fall more precipitous. The global financial crisis signaled the end of an economic order. The next iteration of that order has yet to be determined. Were the dollar ever unseated, it would drastically alter the ability of the US to maintain its present deficits, which show no sign of abating, and which are the foundation of the US fiscal military state. Though arguably still preponderant, Washington's relative economic and geopolitical power continues to decline compared to that of Beijing. The digital yuan is likely to continue this trend. Digitizing the dollar, as Morrison suggested in his foreign policy article, is an obvious and necessary countermove. From the US regime's perspective, to the arrival of the digital 10 the Trump administration did nothing to that effect.
And that's just it. You see, this is the trick. They want you to believe that the idea is to go digital, because, Esau always says that China is their enemy. China, the Chinese virus, all of that. But really, truly, though, his enemy is himself. And, well, we, the elect, we're enemies with the world, including our own, because 2/3 of our people don't want to get right. They hate us for going out there and telling them to get right. Only the elect is going to hear that message. And I believe that message has gone out for quite a while. Well, we know it's gone out for a while, but I believe that our people have heard it for a while. We're just filling each other, not baby spoon feeding, but we're fully filled now. We know what the fuck's going on. We've never fell for this. We're not putting any nanotechs in our body, and we ain't taking no goddamn test. No, man, that's the New World Order. That's the mark of the beast, and we ain't taking the mark of the beast. The elect wouldn't, so we're being kept from that hour of temptation, which we've been in for a while. But things are going to get worse. But the Most High will protect us in that day, as He is now.
However, and the Biden administration has articulated no clear vision of the future of cryptocurrency or a digital dollar in the US besides vague indications of coming regulations. There's certainly nothing so sweeping as the digitization of the dollar. For now, this limits Washington's ability to compete with Beijing in terms of seizing the benefits of a regime-approved digital currency. Apart from the threat such a situation poses to the position of the dollar internationally, Beijing's launch of the digital yuan also throws further into question the future of Bitcoin and other existing cryptocurrencies.
So you see, it's a dead investment. Bitcoin is dead, because again, this was the purpose. All Bitcoin was a beta test. Now the governments are going to come out with a digital currency. And that's the mark of the beast right there. The system is in place. You will not be able to buy or sell unless you have a digital wallet, but you have to have it in a microscopic tag, which is in everything. That's what all this is about, is getting that microscopic tag implanted in everyone.
The majority of Bitcoin mining is done in China. As such, major existing cryptocurrencies, themselves opaque to external surveillance and unable to be controlled by the Chinese regime, now compete directly with the digital yuan. There exists the threat that China may abruptly follow India in considering banning all other cryptocurrencies. It has, after all, done so in the past and has hinted it may do so again. As corporations and institutional investors in the United States and Europe have, in the past year, begun taking substantial stakes in some of these cryptocurrencies, like Bitcoin and Ether, a sudden shock brought about by Beijing fiat banning those currencies in China could trigger unknown volatility and risk to US and global financial markets as these institutions hemorrhage untold billions. This was the Nomad Economist.
So there you have it, which also is known as the Atlantis Report. So, you know, you see what's going on here, but hey, there's even more, because they're trying to convince you that there's a drought, and this whole thing is nothing but a fraud. You know, there is no drought, but they want to convince you that everything's low. All we have is a heat wave, and that happens quite often here. You know, that's all we're having is just a little bit of dry. There is no fucking goddamn fucking drought. No. But they want to convince you there is, so you're going to see water police. They're going to police you for your water. And once you control the food and the water and the currency, what do you think is going to happen?
Well, we didn't realize how low the water was, though, so it's still okay. You know, he's going to still go swimming, and we're going to have fun.
Martha Matlock and her grandson Jacob are enjoying the day at Folsom Lake.
It's very cold, but I like to swim a lot, so I don't mind the cold water.
And while the water may be cold, it doesn't go unnoticed. It's also unusually low.
It's very low. I remember I used to jump off a lot of the rocks around here.
And now those rocks are real far away, huh?
Yeah, so you can tell it's really low.
A dry
Now that's
winter
all
with
done on
little rain
purpose,
and
because you can
snow
say the same
leaves
thing
water
around
across
Shasta
the
Lake.
state. According to the U.S. Drought Monitor, about 90% of California is experiencing drought conditions.
We're just hoping that the snow melt will fill it up again, and it'll be all right.
What they're doing is they're just giving it to Nestle so they can resell it to you as bottled water. That's where it's really going. Nonetheless, though, they want to convince you that there's a drought. But hey, there's even more rumors of war here. Because remember, famines, pestilence, and earthquakes in diverse places. Wars and rumors of wars. Well, here's a rumor of war. Russia's defense chief blames NATO's destabilization action for deterrent troop buildup. Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu has again emphasized in new comments addressed in a board meeting of the Russian Defense Ministry on Tuesday that the amassing of additional troops in the south, specifically Crimea and near the border with Ukraine, is being undertaken in response to NATO's own destabilizing maneuvers in the region. When a week ago called readiness drills remains necessary for strategic deterrence, he said in his latest remarks, this is in direct contradiction to Ukrainian and U.S. officials' claims that the Kremlin may be preparing some kind of an offensive. For example, on Monday, Pentagon Press Secretariat said the mustering of Russian troops was bigger even than in 2014, resulting in a violation of Ukrainian sovereignty, but who overthrew the legitimate government? You know, which was the U.S. They overthrew the legitimate government and took it over. So what had happened is Crimea defected to Russia, you know, because they wanted protection. He said this on the Biden administration position that Crimea belongs to Ukraine. So you see, rumor of wars. So they want everybody to believe that Russia's building up its military, but they're just building up their defenses because, hey, you know, this was happening during the Obama administration. Yeah, they planned to attack Russia. And don't forget, they used a nuclear weapon against Russia. Remember Donetsk? You know, that was a nuclear weapon. It was a smaller nuke, but nonetheless, though, it was a neutron bomb. And guess where that came from? Israeli state. You know, In fact, I'll just go ahead and look that up while we're on the subject. Yeah. So here we go. Yeah, here's some of it. Now they'll say that it wasn't a nuclear bomb, but nonetheless, though, I remember seeing this video here. You know, but they'll say it wasn't a nuclear bomb because, of course, that's damage control. But either way, though, what does that look like to you? And then there's this one. I know you must have seen this video because I remember seeing this video. You know, they of course are just downgrading and just calling it, you know, giant explosion. But nonetheless, though, you know, this happened, and the Israeli state is how they got it. You know, a tactical nuke. At least this one has it right. And they also used one that same year against Yemen. You know, nonetheless, though, you know, this is leading towards World War III, which will start not long after the mark of the beast is being made mandatory. You can see that with the vaccine passports, and where you pretty much eventually they're going to lock everything down to where you can't get in unless you have that passport proving that you've been vaccinated. What do you think's in there? Well, you have to look at my video on BitChute. And this is Obadiah. How are the things of Esau searched out? How are his hidden things sought up? You see, every time they try to do a false flag or whatever, you know, it comes to fruition because Esau, you know, has been exposed. All the men of thy confederacy have brought thee to the border. The men that were at peace with thee have deceived thee. That's talking about all the allies. And prevailed against thee that they eat thy bread laid under thee. There is none understanding in them. Shall I not in that day, saith the Most High, even destroy the wise men out of Edom, and the understanding out of the mount of Esau? And that's just it. You can see, though, that they have a hard time, you know, coming up with lies because we're able to see it. We can see it, but hey, the rest of the world, man, they're totally deceived by this pandemic hoax. And the mighty man of Teman shall be dismayed to the end that everyone of the mount of Esau may be cut off by slaughter, ultimately by that nuclear destruction. For thy violence against thy brother Jacob, shame shall cover thee, and thou shalt be cut off forever. You know, and that's just it. That's why there's all this cancel culture and everything else, Black Lives Matter and da-da-da-da, is because Esau's trying to hide who he is by trying to act like he all of a sudden gives a shit. Yeah, and that's why he's sending people into our communities, you know, to try to talk us into getting that jab, you know. And why do you think such an effort is there? Because, of course, they want to control you. They want that microscopic tag to be implanted in you via the jab. So, I'm going to leave it here with Brother Malcolm and Ottawa and Ratazah. I'll be back later. And we'll see what happens there. Huh. I guess Charlotte Flair, who was recently promoting the shot, you know, or well, she didn't promote the shot, but she pretty much had tried to sell us on the idea that she had the C-19, which is a lie. I guess she's now unemployed. Huh, like Samoa Joe. Let me check this out.
Support Wrestle Talk!
Give us a subscribe. Before we get on with the news of Charlotte Flair being suspended and my review of last night's Raw, I've just been told there's some new Fiend merchandise. I love that guy. Let me get it up here.
Hold on a minute here. Let me see, because usually he provides links in here. You know, this is just on a side note because, you know, WWE big time is trying to tell everybody to go get vaccinated. Okay, right it is. Right there.
One of the only good things on last week's Raw after WrestleMania was the return of Charlotte Flair as an out-and-out heel like she should have been from the start, immediately getting involved in the Raw Women's Championship scene. The Omni Flair. The storyline continued in last night's main event where she faced off against Asuka and lost. Yeah, that's right, Charlotte Flair lost To Asuka, way to get that Mania 34 win back 3 years late. It was because Rhea Ripley broke up a figure 8 behind the referee's back, so Flair brutally attacked the official after the match in the show closing angle.
Never mind, Salakia. This is just part of the storylines that she suspended, kind of like they did with Ronda Rousey. But nonetheless, though, WWE has been firing a lot of people, and Samoa Joe has been on board with the whole get vaccinated thing. Well, he's one of the ones that just got fired. So why would we listen to somebody who ain't even got a real job? They're not real people. They're just actors. That's all that they are. But they want you to get the shot. Why? Because they sold their soul, and they want you to sell yours. Don't take the mark, which is the jab. You know, pretty much. You know, it's in there. And it's coming. You know, pretty much, though. Because they're going to be able to tell who's got it and who hasn't. Why? Because the nanotechs are in there, and they can detect whether you've gotten the shot or not. The papers, that was just all a ploy. So that way they get you to want to take the chip to verify. Because you just want to get verified. You want to do your part. Yeah, that's how crafty this devil is. Look at how well Real ID worked.
Shalom. Giving all praises to my Heavenly Father. His name is Yahweh, by Hashem, Yahushua, by Hashem, Bakar Kadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders that were well. Peace and blessings to you brothers out there that's kicking this word in our sincerity, also in truth. Now, Lizzo has made a couple of comments about, you know, the whole body movement, body shaming, things of that nature. And this is just a small example of the mindset of Western culture. Western culture feels as if you had to accept everything, and so everybody has a voice and also in a compartmentalized argument about their situation, if you will. Whether it be Black Lives Matter, Asian Lives Matter, you know, White Lives Matter. You know, that's just one movement. Now it's body shaming, and now it's the lesbian movement, you know, this movement, that movement, all these movements.
And that's why this place of Sodom and Egypt is going to be destroyed, where our power was crucified, you know, and that is the fact that we didn't know who he was. Say, we was taught a fake name and definitely a stolen identity, you know, Cesare Borgia, who goes by the name of Jesus. See, we was given a fake name as well as a stolen identity, which he doesn't have the identity of Yahushua at all. But we was told that that was the Son of the Most High, you see. And who is it that always tells us, well, you gotta go to church and da-da-da. It's Eve, man. Don't fucking listen to Eve, man. She don't know what the fuck she's talking about. But she's been in bed with Esau Edom all along.
You know, and all these people are offended, and this really goes back to a mindset of mirth, or a mental mirth mentality was coined in. Now this that cliche, or saying I should say, was coined by Apostle Gabar in one of his previous sit-downs. And that's what you see, you know, in society, a idea of mirth and you know, and consumption, and anybody who speaks up against that ideology that manifests in different ways, whether it be you're too fat, or you know, saying you are into sexual immorality, you know, if you're into, you know, I don't know, dang on worshiping obscure things, you know, out of you know, satirical, for satirical reasons, just to make fun of God or the whole concept of God. You can do it, and anybody scrutinizes you, you know, questions your beliefs, they are seen as antagonistic to your life, you know, because this place induces people to live a very impulsive and a very, very carnal life. And this is just a small example, a whole concept of body shaming and how we should accept fat people. That small nuance is a representation of America as a whole, that do without will mentality. Now this is Lizzo, says fat people are still getting the short end of the body positivity movement. We're still getting shitted on. We're still getting talked about, mean, shamed, and no one cares anymore, because it's like body positivity is for everybody, the singer says. Now this is Lizzo. Says Lizzo is calling out the people who co-opt the body positivity movement and left behind the bodies that it was originally supposed to help. And it's funny how this is happening now in the whole BLM movement. See, you so-called Negroes, Latino, Native Americans, they use your energy to push these wayward doctrines. But when you're used up, your opinion, is cast aside. And eventually you're made to look very, very ridiculous. Because this very woman received criticism for going on a juice detox. So they're using her up. Okay, just like they did in the BLM movement with you so-called Negroes. Okay, the singer and rapper 32 responded to a TikTok in which a woman painfully says, "I really don't understand why I can't just exist in my body," and all that weak ass shit. So you guys get the drift. I just was bringing this out just to illustrate the mindset of people in general in Babylon the Great. Now let's get to the scriptures. Wisdom of Solomon 2:1. For the ungodly said, reasoning with themselves, but not aright, our life is short and tedious, and in the death of a man there is no remedy. Neither was there any man known to have returned from the grave. Now in modern terms, this would be the mindset of YOLO, you only live once. Okay? And with their understanding, what do they push? Well, they push a life of decadence. And these scriptures are going to, illustrate what I just said. Verse 2, for we are born at all adventure, and we shall be hereafter as though we had never been, for the breath in our nostrils is as smoke, and a little spark in the moving of our heart, which being extinguished, our bodies shall be turned into ashes, and our spirit shall vanish as the soft air, and our names shall be forgotten in time, and no man shall have our works in remembrance, and our life shall pass away as the trace of a cloud, and shall be dispersed as a mist that is driven away with the beams of the sun, and overcome with the heat thereof. For our time is a very shadow that passeth away, and after our end there is no returning. For it is fast sealed, so that no man cometh after. Come on, therefore, let us enjoy the good things that are present, and let us speedily use the creatures like as in youth. So with that mindset of there is no afterlife, you only live once, and then you die. People have lived a life full of wickedness, whether it be eating too much, like in the case of Lizzo, okay, drinking too much, partaking in drug use, doing things to the extremity, buying too much clothes, watching too much TV, having entirely too much sex. Okay, all this, what I just named, or actions I just named, let's just say, come from a mindset that was given to us by Esau Edom, an impulsive mindset, and with that mindset of conspicuous consumption, buying things you don't need, really, to fulfill that flesh. Esau Edom is able to easily manipulate us into taking things and receiving things. Think about the whole concept of fast food. You know, it's readily available, but it's filled with chemicals that people know they shouldn't eat, but they do it anyway because of the convenience, because it's there, right? You know, so that mindset of constantly consuming is destroying the people, man. You know, alcoholism is one of the #1 killers here in the U.S. People drinking themselves to a stupor, and not only drinking themselves to a stupor, but doing things very rashly because they're under the influence. You see, so with that mindset of chaos, you know, and living in chaos, constantly indulging, people are not going to be able to see what's coming down the pipe, you know, because they're living a life of decadence, and also not a life of wrath and anger because of the things that they're under the influence of. Okay? Sirach 31:27. Wine is as good as life to a man if it be drunken moderately. What life is then to a man that is without wine, for it was made to make man glad. Wine miserably drunk and in season bringeth gladness of the heart and cheerfulness of the mind. But wine drunken with excess maketh bitterness of the mind with brawling and quarreling. And what do you see after the club? Where you see people out there fighting. More than likely, guess what? It's women out there fighting. You know, me and brother, get some pizzas. You know what I'm saying? This, it's kind of famous spot down here in Dallas. And we just watching the matches, man. And you got women out there just at the damn food. I guarantee you they were drunk. Watching them jumping on cars, snatching wigs and everything. Where that comes from that yellow mindset, man. Get toe up from the floor and at the damn food. Okay? There's no sense of moderation here. If you tell somebody to have moderation, you're hating, right? You're being judgmental. You know, with that mindset of constantly want to be immersed, constantly want to fulfill your lust, it's going to lead a lot of people to be destroyed, man. Okay? Go back to drinking. Just a couple more and then we'll grab some more. Verse 28. Wine measurably drunk and in season bringeth gladness of the heart and cheerfulness of the mind. But wine drunken with excess maketh bitterness of the mind, and with brawling and quarreling. Drunkenness causes the rage of a fool till he offend. It diminishes strength and maketh wounds. You see that? So, much wine for foolishness or fool with rage, man. That's why a lot of these guys out here, they getting shot the hell up in the club. Because somebody drunk, somebody said something out the way, already got stuff on his mind, you see, and he needed somebody to take his anger out on. And it just so happened to be, a person who stepped on his sneakers. Think about it, you go to a Madonna J Club, it's nothing but hip hop, they're playing nothing but songs about killing one another. But no wonder somebody gets sent to the spirit world, after the club, especially when Jay ain't getting none. Jay looking in the club looking for love, and he ain't got nobody's number. See you shine, he really gonna take you out. So there's all types of covetousness and envy, hatred, as in these clubs. And really, I'm using the club as an analogy, but this ideology of consumption of the flesh is in the world, man. That's why a lot of people, they're so too busy trying to please themselves and please their lust. They don't see what the Most High wants and also what's he's doing, man, on the planet Earth. Okay. 1 Thessalonians 5:1. But the times and the seasons, brethren, ye have no need that I write unto you. For yourself know perfectly that the day of the Lord cometh as a thief in the night. For when they shall say peace and safety, they shall suddenly destroy. It's like I'm excited. Back to it. For when they shall say peace and safety, then sudden destruction cometh upon them as travail upon a woman with child, and they shall not escape. And you see that spirit of murder somewhat down here in Texas, because we're open or whatever, so people are still trying to live that lifestyle, and that lifestyle is going to get a lot of people killed. People aren't paying attention to what's going on in the economy. With these stimulus packages, inflation is around the corner. I'm waiting. Those bar, little Snicker bar, and a dang on Reese's Pieces was damn near $3. You see, gas is spiking. One, because it's the summertime, but two, it just shows you that the American dollar is suffering. Okay. That's why these alternative currencies are becoming so popular, like cryptocurrency. The number one would be Bitcoin, right? Because people understand that the American dollar is waning, and the reason, not the whole reason, but the reason because of these stimulus packages. The people are getting these stimulus packages and they're blowing them. Jake is causing a pandemic, getting money during a pandemic. That's what Jake is calling it. Unknowingly, not paying attention to the news, and because if they were, they would know that there's about to be some bad times out here, man. Some very, very bad times. So while we're taking this time to define ourselves, the world is taking this, is going down that same dark alley, and eventually, this world is about to be, in particular our people, I'm saying our world, and I'm really alluding to our people, you so-called Negro, Latino, Native Americans, you guys are going to be headed down a very, very dark path, man. So we understand what times that we are living in, so it's time to rise to the occasion. Everything that we've been teaching, we have to implement, to the fullest, first and foremost in our individual life, man, and not live after the flesh or as the world, okay? 2 Timothy 3:1. This now know also that in the last days perilous times shall come, for men shall be lovers of their own selves, meaning they'll be very selfish, covetous, boasters, proud, blasphemers, disobedient to parents, unthankful, unholy, without natural affection, truth breakers, false accusers, incontinent, fierce, despisers of those that are good, traitors, heady, high-minded, lovers of pleasure more than lovers of the Most High. And all these are attributes of someone who's living in the flesh. See what I'm saying? So it's important that we are refining ourselves in the days that we are in, and try not to have these attributes. We're still in these flesh, but offend less. We all know what we have to do. Speaking to myself first and foremost. Because these people out here, man, they live a life of filth. And now that we have this knowledge, we can't be walking in that same filth, man. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, I pray it was edifying. Hope it wasn't too all over the place. You know, I put it together before I started. And I digressed a little bit, but, you know, the scriptures came out. So, giving all praise to my Heavenly Father. His name is Yahweh Bashim Yahushua. Shalom.